C2 Wrestling Podcast, CTD and Snowden. The boys are back. Subscriber, you're a coward. We are almost at 1,400 subscribers, so smash that shit now. If not, you sicken me. I can't believe you would do that to the boys. We've got plenty to talk about. It's the new year. Monday Night Raw had their first show of the year. Friday Night SmackDown is a day away from their second show of the year. We are getting on a UK tour. So the shows will be at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you name it. Make sure you're watching early if you can. We also have news of more call ups. We have news of people leaving. And we have news throughout all of wrestling that we need to talk about that all is secondary to how Snowden's doing today.
I am doing good. Another day, another C2 podcast. Oh, as I choke, of course, but been looking forward to it. It has been a pretty interesting week in wrestling. I feel like this could be a bit of a rant pod. Depends on the direction we end up going. There's some things to discuss. If you haven't seen our Monday Night Raw review, go check that one out. That was a good one. But I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Had a long travel day, which included a 3 hour flight delay where I,
Mhm.
in my seat, woke up, still not taking off. Uh, I genuinely, man, I can empathize with Javon Evans, with John Cena, with R-Truth, the pain of their neck after Gunther's chokehold. Because when I sleep on an airplane, it's like this, or it's like this, and I wake up and just, oh man, my neck. So yeah, I was hurting for like a good 2 hours after that flight.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it. I mean, that flying alone, not the biggest fan. Delayed flight like that, sitting like that all day. Oh, that's like my nightmare. So rather you than me on that one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a part of the life nowadays. You get used to it. Whatever. I couldn't
Hmm.
imagine it, you get a strong appreciation even more for wrestlers. As my cat tries to get into my closet, you get a strong appreciation even more for wrestlers because I did that, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna go home and I'm just gonna chill. They do that, and then it's like, all right, I have to go hit the gym, shower, check into my hotel, check in my hotel, shower, get to the arena at a certain time, and then wrestle a match.
Yeah.
Like,
Until 11 at night at
yeah,
the very
yeah,
least. Yeah.
yeah. And you stay until like midnight and then travel again. Like, I could not imagine.
It's kind of crazy because like your flight was delayed, a couple hours, and but that shit happens all the time. It's been worse than that. And it's not that it's never happened in wrestling, but it's insane how rare it is for these wrestlers to be like so delayed in travel that they miss a show or something. I guess there's always an alternative route. You rent a car and you make the hike if you gotta, but crazy life to live.
I feel like there was one where Priest and Riddle maybe didn't make a show from travel
That's
issues.
possible. Yeah.
I feel like that happened on a Raw where flight delays or
I
flight
know a big one where
cancellations.
people didn't make the show because of travel issues, but yeah.
Well, January 31st.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out if we get part two. There's a very big one. Yeah, it is it is a appreciation grows. Something that when you're a kid, I mean, I know they work less states now, but when we
Mhm.
were kids, you know, like Hulk Hogan said, I had one year where I worked more than 365 days from the time difference, like not true. But John Cena was wrestling, working like 300 days a year and doing that nonstop. And yeah, some might say, well, some of them have like nicer travel or whatever. That shit still adds up. Even if it's a
Yeah.
bus ride that's comfortable, like that's exhausting on your body. So it's not something that when you're a kid, you don't really comprehend it. So you don't really like understand. Because also when you're a kid, you could sleep like upside down, twisted in a pretzel, and you wake up and you could run a marathon. Now you're an adult, you sleep in the same position you've slept in for the last 20 years, and you wake up and your body's just fucked. You get a new appreciation for what they go through and what their bodies go through, and actually how great of athletes they are, being able to withstand all of it.
Oh, absolutely. I really feel for the big guys, the big shows, the Andres of the world, the Braun Strowmans, the so on and so forth, the travel, the Amoses. That's got to be a rough life. Again, they don't go travel as much as they used to, sure. It's a little bit easier nowadays, but these guys got buses too. The bus route, if you got the bread, is the way to go. If you're on the road like they are and you got the money for it, the bus route is the way to go.
Yeah, you sent a video of that was kind of like trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
That was making its rounds of like a tour of
Just the
I don't, yeah,
fanciest fucking bus you'll ever
like a
see. Yeah.
fancy bus, whatever. Who knows if it was actually anyone's or if it was just some random
Yeah.
bus. And I was like, wow, that's a bus nicer than like any
My
house
house.
I've ever lived
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
We'll
that
see.
would be
I mean,
nice, but
I'm sure that bus ain't fucking cheap. And then you're paying a driver, I guess. I don't know the logistics behind it all, but I think it goes to show only the top dogs have the jets or the buses and the whatnot. Travel outside of that has got to be brutal. I guess they get more time home nowadays in between. I'm sure there's still though. That's the thing though too. All right, maybe it's not Monday Night Raw, Tuesday house show, Wednesday house show, Thursday this, Friday SmackDown. Maybe it's not all wrestling, but it's a Monday Night Raw into a Tuesday signing in fucking Saskatchewan, and then Wednesday you're going to a different signing, and then you might be off Thursday, but then you're traveling with SmackDown this week or whatever. So I'm sure it still is a lot.
yeah, I mean Cody, they talk about his schedule. It's unreal how like that guy takes he's on like the Cena schedule. It takes no days off. So just a newfound appreciation for them for when you do a bit more traveling. I traveled a lot at one point in my life for work. Now I travel still a good amount, more than others, but not as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine having to wrestle matches throughout all of those travels. That would have been horrific. But on the topic of wrestling, it's been quite the newsworthy week from people being called up to people potentially leaving. It's the start of the new year. We're on the road to the Royal Rumble. We are past Monday Night Raw, January 5th, which, if you haven't seen our video, go watch. There were plenty of rants about that show that I thought and you thought was shit. And look, wrestling, it's like a buffet. So, something might be for one person, might not be for the others. I saw some people on social media that were like, I thought the show was good, or I thought the show was solid, whatever. And then I saw some other people that were like us. They were like, this is dog shit. And the beauty of it all is it's not like football when it's week 18 and you're the Baltimore Ravens and you have a horrific ending. And now you got to stew on it for months. The great thing about professional wrestling is you just get a few more days and it's on to the next one. Clean slate, do a make good. It's year round, baby. So that is in our rear view, but it still feels like a part of me. I'm still like irked by it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I feel like we're realists within the world in general, but in the world of wrestling, uh, people expect like the greatest thing ever to happen every episode. You're not going to get the greatest thing ever week in, week out, Monday and Friday, twice a week, three times a week with NXT. Not every episode can possibly be better than the last. So you can't expect that. But I also don't want to settle for mediocrity or below mediocrity. This last Raw was not it. SmackDown was good. There's some things to look forward to with SmackDown, sure. Not that there isn't with Raw, but that particular episode, especially being so overly promoted, just did not hit in so many ways. And those people that did like it are on Twitter saying, "Oh, wasn't that bad? I like this, I like that." Yeah, there's one or two things I could pick out of it that I liked too. Didn't really make the overall episode good though. Nothing crazy happened. Not that I expected anything too crazy, but I don't know. You expect more storylines to develop, more things to happen, things to flow a bit better. The Rumble's coming up. No build towards that quite yet. Wow, I don't know. They are in a little bit of a slump, particularly with Monday Night Raw right now.
SmackDown, you got hope for because this past SmackDown you got somewhere.
Hmm.
You had some returns, Orton returns, Matt Cardona debuts slash returns. You're getting the NXT talent coming up. Trick Williams seems to be on SmackDown. Jordan Grace has a backstage segment. You have a title change. Julia wins the title. It feels different. The show feels freshened up. On top of it, you've got Cody Rhodes defending the title next week. And it's like, all right, even though we are so done with this story, it does feel like this is going to be the end of this feud finally. And we can move on from there, whatever. Monday Night Raw did not have that closure feeling for these stories, or maybe not that closure feeling. It did not have that fresh start feeling. When the clock turns and the calendar changes over from 2025 to 2026, that it's that weird little stretch during the holidays where you get a couple taped shows and you get a couple live shows that kind of get mixed in. So all right, it's not going to be the hardest of hitters, but they're going to start working towards something. When the calendar turns to January, it ramps up because we're on the road to the Rumble. And if you're on the road to the Rumble, it means you're on the road to WrestleMania. These 4 months historically are the best 4 months of the year in WWE. Like history tells us this is the best stretch. Yes, in the last few years, we've had some great builds to SummerSlam, some great SummerSlams, Money in the Banks, Survivor Series. Like there's been good in that later stretch, but throughout WWE's history, this 4 month stretch is the best part. And last year, the Mania buildup was like interesting. It obviously, the way Mania played out, taints the Mania build. But if Mania, say they hit a home run with it, we're looking back on that build like really fondly of like, man, they kept us on our toes. Like we really didn't know where it was going. And it was so like fresh and exciting. And then we ended up with this and that, whatever. The payoff just didn't click. So that kind of like questioning, it, ends up going from a positive to a negative. With this build, I mean, we're in a lot of predictability right now. We say predictability when done right is still good. This is the situation of predictability not being done right, and in my opinion, is not good. And for the last year, we have been saying how I'm not that excited for the Rumble because it's during the day. It's a Saudi show. Like it loses a little bit of its allure. I don't care what anyone says. This is my opinion, my thought. When it comes to the Rumble, when it comes to WrestleMania, to me, I want those at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night,
Hmm.
building throughout the day. I do a marathon watching just random Rumbles, random Manias, whatever. I want them in these cities, whatever. It doesn't have to be in the US. It could be in Toronto. It could be in the UK. Sucks for the time change, but as a pampered person of I live on the Eastern time zone and all things go off the Eastern time zone, that's what I look forward to. So you combine it all together where I was already like the Rumble doesn't feel as big. It doesn't feel as notable with this start to the year. I'm like, man, we've got what, 3 or 4 more Raws and 4 or so more SmackDowns, and you're at the Rumble. We need something better than this.
Yeah, we absolutely do. You mentioned Mania 41, the build to Mania 41, which the years that go by are intriguing to compare because Mania 41 was in a hard spot off the back of Mania 40 and the Mania 40 build. So it was very hard to top what they had just done. I don't think anybody really expected Mania 41 to be up to par with Mania 40. All can hope, it's going to be just as good. Hopefully it can be better. But I think we all kind of knew like it's tough to get there back to back years. 38, 39, 40 is the best stretch of WrestleManias. I've said that so many times. And then 41, you hope, but fourth in a row, couldn't do it that time around. Mania 41, again, put in a hard spot. Build you said as well, wasn't that bad. It was good. The build was good, a little tainted by how it all played out. Now, Mania 42 is off the back of Mania 41, a tainted Mania build. So it, in a way, is easier. They don't have to do a whole lot to impress this year. Off the back of that Mania, and let alone off the back of that Mania, just the last like year of wrestling. It was a real down year. In reality, it kind of wasn't as down of a year as people and all the disgruntled fans make it sound. But the Cena heel turn, no great. The last couple months of wrestling, we went over it with the last four PLEs of the year not really being real PLEs. Survivor Series, sure, but War Games, we get it. It'd be pretty easy to please us right now. And in certain aspects, they are. We mentioned SmackDown being kind of hot. Ilya Dragunov, perfect example. Been great. What a hot addition back to whatever roster you want to throw him on. The U.S. title, that whole picture, fantastic. But that's one small piece of the puzzle when you're looking at WrestleMania as a whole. The U.S. title match can be the greatest thing at WrestleMania. Mania 41, Dirty Dom wins the IC title. That's one of the highlights of the entirety of the weekend. Wasn't enough to make it one of the best Manias we've ever seen. So you need to figure it out sooner rather than later. I imagine in the coming weeks, I would hope we get Rumble qualifiers, things like that. I'm a little intrigued as to what matches they're going to fill that card with this year because you got the Rumbles, the men's and the women's, and you probably got two more matches, maybe a fifth, it being in Saudi for whatever reason. I feel like this could be the one time they would add an extra match, a fifth, because the two Rumbles are going to take an hour. There's no way they go six matches, but the Saudis want who they want, so I could see it happening. I predicted, I should say, Orton comes back. Didn't see it coming, but predict it's because they want to promote him for the Rumble. You're going to have the Rumble. You need some big names to go, hey, this person's going to be in it. This person's going to be in it. And you're not promoting CM Punk. You're not promoting Cody Rhodes. Gunther, you would think, is in the Rumble, but in this feud with AJ Styles, we'll see where it goes. I don't know what their ultimate plan is, but we're creeping close to a Rumble that you again said is a little bit tainted, to use that word again, with it being in Saudi. A 1 p.m. Rumble in Saudi is like it's it's not worse than WrestleMania 43 being in Saudi, but it is the next worst thing. That is for sure. I remember hearing the announcement that it was in Saudi and it was like heartbreak. And then the Mania announcement was like you taped it back up a little bit and you untore it. Uh, they have to impress really hard at this Rumble. It's weird because it's a double-edged sword. You almost like don't want the craziest thing ever to happen because it's not around the crowd you want it to be around. But you still want it to be a great Rumble and memorable. So like where do you draw the line? What do you do? What storylines do they build? The Rumble is the ultimate indicator in what we're getting towards WrestleMania.
The Chamber should be great because the Chamber's in Chicago, so I expect a pretty nuts crowd. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but it kind of makes me feel a little bit that whatever Punk is doing might not land on the Rumble card
Hmm.
since you're only going to have a couple matches anyway and he's going to be involved on the Chamber
Yeah.
because it's in Chicago. That would be, I mean, if we want to talk about mistakes and shocking decisions, if Punk wasn't on the Chicago Elimination Chamber PLE, that would be quite the surprise. So I immediately am like, all right, probably don't get him for the Rumble. Do we get a Cody match then? Or maybe you do, maybe you have Punk at both. I don't know. At that point, it's like you're going to take that spot over something else when you only have so many spots for the Rumble match itself or the Rumble card itself. I don't know. They are going to start getting some of the artillery back. LA Knight's going to make his return probably at the Rumble. Roman's going to come back. Brock is going to come back. Chad Gable should be coming back any moment now. So they're starting to get a few more of these pieces back. And on top of it, we have the NXT call ups, which we'll talk specifically about Oba and some of the call ups in a moment. But that combination has helped freshen up the men's. Now there's the rumors on the women's side on how is it going to get freshened up. Well, Jordan Grace now seemingly is getting called up. There's rumors Blake Monroe might be called up. It seemed that she would just seemingly win the North American Championship back. She doesn't. That kind of plays towards the rumors. JC Jane is rumored to be in line possibly for a call up. You just had Lash get called up. That quickly freshens up the women's division. My worry is all of these sound great. All of the men and women, Trick, Javon, Oba, Jordan Grace, you name it. These all sound great. There are only so many spots for the Rumble, Chamber, Mania. You still have a lot of top talent on your actual show as well. So when I look at the Rumble build, yes, it's nice that we're getting at least a little bit freshened up, but I start thinking of the likes of like Damian Priest is going to be doing something. Aleister Black, you would assume, is going to be doing something. Rusev hasn't been on in a little bit. Dom might be out. Are they going to take the IC title off him? Whatever. Are they going to do something with Finn? There's a lot of these like top names that are very relevant that are, I don't want to say in limbo because I did just mention Priest and Black, but pull them aside. Some of these big names are kind of in limbo where it's like, what are they going to do? Are they just going to pop up for the Rumble? And to your point, this is where it's perfect for these names to have those Rumble qualifiers. If you just had on Monday Night Raw Finn Balor taking on, I don't know, a triple threat match, Finn Balor versus Julius Creed versus someone from NXT. And,
Sure.
you know, Balor ends up getting the win, whatever. And then the next match is another triple threat match, and a surprise from NXT wins it, whatever. Joe Hendry's in it, and I don't know. I'm just going to say Drew, but not actually Drew. Drew's in the match, and he loses, and you're shocked. Oh my God, he's not in the Rumble. It just plays so much more into the build of the Rumble. I don't like that in the last few years, they've gotten very reliant on, hey, these big names are in the Rumble, and they're just going to cut promos. They're going to cut promos about how they're going to win the Rumble. And then in the next week, they're going to come out to cut another promo, and another big name is going to interrupt them who's also in the match, and you're going to tell them, no, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble. Like, yeah, these promos are good, but let's add a little bit more to it. Let's not just rely on that. Let's make it seem like, oh, yeah, Roman Reigns is in this Rumble. Brock Lesnar's in this Rumble. But guess what? There's only so many spots. People got to earn their way in. Let's make quality TV of guys earning their way in. Let's have these matches on TV mean something so this build to the Rumble gets a little bit more juice. I know I'm already complaining about the build to the Rumble and we're one show in, but as I mentioned, it's a type of show where I don't leave feeling things are about to get better.
So you're about to say things are about to get
Yeah.
extreme, you
Or or
know?
or things are about to pick up.
Yeah. Yeah, the a big allure of the Rumble every year too is like it's the idea of what's going to happen, who's going to be in it, surprises, returns, this or that. And in the last matter of years, they've gotten off the legends coming back, in the Rumble. There's no more Godfather returns and things like that. It tends to more so be wrestlers that have been out via injury or maybe a debut or a call up, a future call up is the surprise of the Rumble. I feel like we truly could low key sit here and book the 30 guys in the Rumble, but you got to expect slots to be taken up by a couple of the big names. You would think Fatu returns at the Rumble. It's looking like Chad Gable returns at the Rumble. So we got two names maybe taken up there. If you're only going to put one NXT name in, not including Oba Femi, fine, but they always pull a slot to like a Tozawa or Kofi Kingston might find himself in there, which it's all fine. Like a couple of those filler slots are all good, but they have relied real heavily on like Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, Undertaker, John Cena, all in the same Rumble match. This is over like the last decade of Rumbles. Uh, this time it being in Saudi, I think they could go back to a little bit of like I guess Jericho is like a re-debut, but Jericho is like a legend if he does pop up in the Rumble. You know, if the Saudis want Hillbilly Jim might be in the Rumble this year again, Like it can kind of go that route. Uh I do hate when they announce 28 out of 30 names for the Rumble, but you got to add some allure to the Rumble. You got to have some TV matches. So the triple threats you put out there, singles matches, fatal four ways, I don't care. Any sort of qualifier. Also, we say this every year. Don't put fucking tag teams in the Rumble. All right? Let's stay away from that. It depends who. Maybe one person from this team or that team, it can make sense. They won the qualifier, sure. I get it. It's different if you're going to throw a solo Sikoa, the guy of a faction in there too, different. But I don't need both Creed bros taking up slots. No offense. The Rumble, though, I do hope for the qualifiers. I hope they start picking up the pace a little bit. For the men's and the women's, it just adds depth to the weekly TV for now, which is kind of like my main overall focal point. We'll get to the Rumble. They'll figure the Rumble out. I'm sure something crazy is going to happen. It's the Rumble. It's always electric in a way. But Monday Night Raw has not been so electric. So spice it up a little bit. Let's get some feuds pumping for the Rumble matches and the matches that are going to happen at the Rumble.
Yeah, and the Rumble sets up your Mania matches. It's so often you got to watch who gets eliminated and who they get eliminated by all the time. Where last year, we're wondering, all right, what's the Mania matches? What's the Mania matches? You leave the Rumble, Punk, Reigns, and Rollins are all going after each other, and you're sat there saying, well, that sure seems like it's going to main event one of the nights of WrestleMania. Then obviously, Jey Uso eliminates Cena, and you're immediately thinking, okay, Jay's got his feud with Gunther. Who else is going to face Cody? Probably Cena. You leave that Rumble right there with your two title matches and your marquee main event match. And I'm sure there's others that are just slipping my mind, but that's how the Rumble goes. So it's not just important for the weekly TV to be built up for the Rumble, but because the Rumble match is more than just the winner when it comes to WrestleMania. It ends up building like 2 to 3 Mania matches at least. Some Rumbles you get fucking like every Mania match you then know just from the Rumble alone. The TV SmackDown I have better hopes for because at least a lot of their stories, I don't want to say they're fresh, but a good amount of their stories at least is like I'm not sick of is
Mhm.
better. Is better to say. Cardona just makes his debut slash return. All right, that's kind of new. The U.S. title open challenge, even though Melo and Ilya have faced twice now, they're mixing in other people in these open challenges that keeps it fresh. Trick Williams officially signs. He's facing Ray Phoenix. That feels completely new. MFT and Wyatt Six. All right, yeah, we should get moving on that and kind of wrap that up. The Fraxium DIY, or now just Johnny Gargano story, yeah, it's been going on for a little bit, but it's been so little that now it actually feels like they're getting towards what they want to get towards, and it's going to have more time, be more memorable. The women aren't in as great of a spot when it comes to the Women's WWE Championship and the Women's United States Championship. So I'm not going to say all of SmackDown is completely cured and in this great spot for Mania, but it's in a better spot than Raw is. Like Raw, we leave it. Seems we'll get Rhea Io in some sort of way. I mean, we're still a few months away from Mania. This has been going on for quite some time. You assume we're getting Becky, AJ. That's been going on for months. Our fear is you could be getting Punk versus the Vision in some sort of aspect when it gets to Chamber slash Rumble. It's like, that's been going on for months. I don't have that same feeling with SmackDown because we have Cody Drew for the millionth time, but I actually finally feel this is the end of it. I actually do. I think this is the end of it. I know this is going to be words I'm going to regret and they're going to face again at the Rumble, but I feel like this is the end of it. Punk versus the Vision. I mean, that could go on for 6 more months, it feels.
Yeah, I mean Drew Cody can't go past the three stages of hell. I mean that is like a feud ender for sure. You mentioned SmackDown and how it's more fresh, and it is, and the talent is more fresh, and not that Raw doesn't have a little bit of that influx as well with Javon Evans and who knows who else about to come up to Monday Night Raw. Uh, Something about SmackDown is just more fresh. The feuds, the guys in the ring, the U.S. Open Challenge ever since Sammy, it's been fresh matchups at least once every SmackDown with Ilya facing whoever, Sammy, whoever. Carmelo is continuing the open challenge, so we'll see what goes down there. And they're still missing Jacob Fatu. Randy Orton just came back. Cody Drew needs to end. The women need to spice it up a little bit, or they need to spice it up for the women, whichever way you want to look at it. Yes, I love like Trick versus Ray Phoenix. You mentioned that's great. That's very fresh. The internet is going to explode when Ray Phoenix takes a pinfall loss to Trick Williams on SmackDown. That's going to go hard. But it is a lot more fresh. Yeah, cry about it. Raw, not as much. There's still hope there. The Vision is still like up and coming. Great guys in that faction. CM Punk is our world champion. Can't be mad. LA Knight should come back red hot, if we're being honest. Hopefully, the tag division gets a little bit more spiced up. Usos are champs for the 30th time. I get it, but it is fresh in a way. So it's okay in certain areas. The Rumble, like you said, decides 6 out of 12 Mania matches sometimes. Those other six that don't get decided come via the chamber. So the Rumble leads to that. That leads to Mania. It really does all connect. I want to see where they go in the coming weeks. Before we, or even if we do end up going to totally other topics after that, you mentioned Fraxium, Wyatt Six, DIY, a lot of the tag teams on SmackDown. And I got to bring up, we'll talk about it briefly, Tommaso Ciampa. Leaving WWE, it seems, coming out of nowhere. He's been prominent too in still a tag team role with DIY, but in a singles role as well, challenging Ilya a lot for this U.S. title. And, he never quite got that victory. Maybe they knew he was going out and he was kind of like the put over talent for Ilya, which, hey, hell of a shout to Ilya. That's great to see if that's the case. It's a shame. It's a shame. He's one of those guys that could have a heel run on the roster that could be generational. He's not necessarily going anywhere. It is his tag team partner that took time off from wrestling as a whole and just came back to WWE. So I don't know. We'll see where he goes. But how do you feel about old Tommaso there?
I'm gonna try to figure out how to word this without sounding negative. Because I like Tommaso a lot. Tommaso is great. I think right now we are so pampered as wrestling fans that if this were 10 years ago, I would be like, this is horrific. Like, we
Horrific.
are like, this is just devastating. Now it's like, whether he goes to AEW, TNA, just takes a break and then comes back to WWE, we're going to see him somewhere. Like, we're going to get to see him and we're fans of him. So we'll get to watch him. Like, it's not,
I don't mean to cut you off, but are we? He's got like a bad neck, doesn't
no,
he?
I'm saying if he comes back to wrestling,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
yeah,
yeah. Okay. Okay. I
yeah,
thought you
yeah.
meant
Like,
like, okay. Okay.
yeah. I mean, if he retires,
Could be
it's like,
done. Yeah.
yeah, it's not the first person to retire. Like, that's going to
Yeah.
happen someday. So if he is going to wrestle, whether it's in WWE or not, like, we'll be able to watch him. It's not like he's going to
Hmm.
fall off the face of the earth and wrestle on bars. Like, we'll get to watch him wrestle. The reason why we're so pampered is I love Tommaso Ciampa. They're so flooded with so many good wrestlers and so much good talent. Even with SmackDown going to 3 hours, it's like, well, there's been plenty of people that haven't even been on that are going to be getting in the mix anyway. And you have the call ups on top of it that it really is that next man up kind of mentality where they're not hurting as much as they once were. So if he continues to wrestle and it just doesn't happen to be in WWE, I don't want to say like, oh, I'm not upset because I obviously like him and want to see him in WWE. But it's like we're still gonna get to see him somewhere, and There's some other really good talent that's going to be able to get that slot that he was in because he was on TV every week. I know he wasn't WWE champion, but he was getting TV time every single week, sometimes multiple segments a show. That's going to go to the next man up. And when it comes to next man up, that's where you're getting the Ray Phoenixes right now. That's where you're getting a call up of a Trick Williams. It's where you're getting a Carmelo Hayes. It's where you're getting potentially an Oba Femi coming up. Like uh,
A Kit Wilson,
Kit will. I'm glad you mentioned him because I did want to get to him
Yeah,
in this conversation. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. Like I'll be sad if he retires. Like if
of
this
course.
was it, mainly because he's the type of wrestler that deserves a send off. Like he deserves, maybe he doesn't want that. Very well, he might be someone who doesn't want that kind of limelight. I don't know. I don't know him personally. But if he's still going to wrestle, this isn't 10 years ago where I'm like, damn, he's leaving and I'm barely going to get to see anything that he does. It's like, oh, he's probably going to be on national television, whether it's on TNA, AEW, or WWE. Like we're pampered. We're pampered now.
Yeah, the influx of talent does make it a bit easier to take nowadays. There's so many guys that you would see they got cut back in the day, and you were like, oh God, that he took a real hit because this guy's no longer with the company. Nowadays, it still sucks, if Carmelo Hayes, one of my favorites right now, up and left the company, I would be heartbroken. But there's still so much talent that the WWE wouldn't fold from it, and I don't think they're going to. It also gives Gargano a chance to shine, add him to, that high level mid card kind of circuit, and we can get some great matchups, some great storylines there. I'm intrigued to see where they go with Gargano. I think he might come back in the long run, anyways. I think Ciampa could make the return. We'll see. But it does help get some of those new faces, the NXT faces that just got called up on SmackDown as well. And some of them might be going to Raw. Nobody quite left WWE on Raw just yet, but influx of NXT talent coming up. It looks like off the back of NXT, Oba Femi's coming up. That was already pretty much predicted with the vignettes, but when you leave the title in the ring and vacate yourself as champion, there's only the next step, and that is the main roster. We can get into kind of everybody individually. We've talked a bit about the women and them needing almost an overhaul on SmackDown and Raw, a draft. Everybody needs a draft. The women definitely do. Feuds are getting stale. SmackDown got Lash Legend and potentially getting Jordan Grace. I thought for a moment Jordan Grace might go to Raw because they kind of did like a little bit of some of these guys showing up on both shows, and then they end up going to one of them. So I thought her going to SmackDown was maybe the red herring for her to show up on Raw, but she wasn't on Raw this past week. Neither was Javon Evans, technically, but he is on the show. So that kind of does indicate to me that Jordan might go to SmackDown, and then Raw does get a JC Jane, perhaps, or a Blake Monroe. They're going to get some influx somewhere.
Yeah, and the returning talent, as we were mentioning before, does help. We're going to get Tiffy back at some point. Tiffy
Mhm.
obviously is a mainstay in the division and a big name for the women. So you mix that with some call ups, you can quickly kind of freshen up some of these divisions. My worry that I was kind of getting into earlier, or maybe it was before we came on air, that I do have that little bit of like, all right, I like all of these NXT talent. You can't rely on all of them and think that all of it is just going to click and every single person that you match up with someone else, it's going to get that immediate interest of Trick Williams interrupting Sami Zayn. Like, it's not all going to work that way. On top of that, when you look at Mania, someone's going to miss the card. Someone's not going to get a Mania match, probably more than one person. We're pretty big believers in I don't want every Mania match to be a triple threat, a fatal four way, a eight-man tag, like just to get all these people on. I want Mania to be prestigious. I want the Raw and SmackDown surrounding Mania to be important as well. You know, you finish some feuds there. Some names aren't going to make it, but some names, it's like you can't And I mean, you cannot call up Oba Femi right now not having a Mania match in mind. And I kind of look at that the same way for Trick Williams. Javon, I love Javon. He gives me a little bit more of like odds are if there's a multi-man match, he's going to squeeze into there, whether it be a multi-tag or a multi mid-card title, whatever. Like I can see him sliding into that slot a little bit more. Jordan Grace, love Jordan Grace. I could see her sliding into a multi-woman match a little bit more than facing Jade Cargill for the women's championship at Mania. Like it would just feel like a lot. Trick and Oba to me feel like I would be very surprised if both of them didn't have like a notable, I should say, a notable Mania match.
Yeah, absolutely. Trick is a star. Oba is literally probably going to be the greatest of all time. Might take him a little bit to surpass, you know, Gunther, but there's a couple of those names that have to make the Mania card. Javon Evans does fit the multi-man match thing, like you said. He could be the Friday Night SmackDown Andre the Giant Battle Royal winner. You know, he might not even make the actual Mania cut. Could go the same route for like a Jordan Grace per se, or a Blake Monroe. Maybe she does have a little bit more pull to maybe make the Mania card. Weirdly, no shade on Jordan Grace, but just kind of current eyes on these people. The NXT call-ups as a whole, though, it is a great influx. It's kind of like the most we've ever had in one go. You know, it's not like they all showed up on one show, but it's arguably the most we've had in like a month or two time. I think back to obviously when they had the original Horsewoman come up, they all came up literally at once, sure, and there could have been a guy or two at that time as well. But it's an overhaul of the roster and it's kind of needed. There is some great talent. There's a lot of talent slowing down too. There's a lot of talent that's about to go. So you need to replace these names. The U.S. title on Monday Night Raw, I think, or on Monday Night Raw, on Friday Night SmackDown fits the most for like a multi-man match this year at Mania, just because the way those storylines, those feuds are going. Tama Tonga still staring people down. I can see that getting a multi-man. IC title's a little tough to predict right now with Dom possibly being hurt. Who knows where they go? But we are pretty much guaranteed for like one multi-man mid-card title match every year at WrestleMania, whether it be a fatal four-way or a 6 to 8 man ladder match. I don't need it for every single match. So who doesn't make the cut? It is tough to call this year. The main championships could be multi-man matches this year with the rate of names they got going. And then you got mid-card titles. And then you got tag divisions going crazy. So if you don't want to run 12 matches, 6 matches, 7 matches each show, and have all of them be multi-man and multi-woman, you're snubbing a lot of names this year. The recently called up names, even though they're kind of hot, they just got called up. You think they'd want to be pushing those talent, have time. They do have time. I fucking love Trick. I love Oba. Javon, too. If it were up to me and you made me pick any of those three guys to get a Mania match this year or AJ Styles in his last run, you're getting AJ Styles on the card this year, you know? So maybe he gets a fucking Oba Femi. Who knows? It can go any route really at this point, but it's hard to predict who's going to get snubbed. I think a lot of these guys, though, I do think a couple of them are going to have good showings at the Rumble, even if they end up not making Mania. Oba could be the guy that kind of, it could be brain fart, can't think of it, but he could be the longest running in the Rumble this year.
I want to specifically talk about Oba in 1 second. I just want to ask you one question
Mhm.
pertaining to Trick Williams. Do we think one of the Rumble matches is Trick versus Sami Zayn in Saudi, where it's Zayn's gonna be he's gonna be on the card. We assume in the Rumble. It could, I mean, now that I'm talking about it out loud, it kind of gives me vibes of it's the SmackDown the day before the Rumble,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, it will be
and
in
then
Saudi.
it'd be in Saudi, and then Zayn is also just still in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't make the Rumble card, but it's Rumble weekend. Where do you think that match lands? Like that
I mean,
to me, it's not a Mania match because we're just so far
so
away
far, yeah.
that there's like I'd be stunned. If anything, that'd be I think we'd be in a bad spot if that's the Mania match since they just set it up on Friday and the Rumble's in 4 months, 3.5 months, whatever. So where do you think that match actually ends up?
I mean, I do think it ends up on the SmackDown in Saudi, and then you still have both those guys in the Rumble, and I think Trick eliminates Sammy one way or another. Maybe it's a little screwy way of eliminating him. And that's kind of the big boo of the night is Trick Williams. Maybe that's like the ultimate rub for him at the Rumble. He throws Sammy over. He's eliminated and eliminates Sammy. Who knows how they do it? And then he's pointing and laughing, and Trick gets this all-time rub. And then maybe we get Trick Sammy at the Chamber. It's then hard to follow up with what do you do with both of these guys come Mania? Because Sammy's another name who, at this rate, is he gonna get snubbed for WrestleMania? He had an insane year. For the first like 8 months of the year, it was Sami Zayn is winning the Rumble this year. And things have changed. Don't get me wrong, but it's hard. If you're gonna have a guy like Sammy get a match at Mania this year, you would think he's deserving of a feud, not just like a three. Mania is usually what, 5 weeks post Chamber, usually they have an extra week or two to build there, but still, those feuds that pick up in those last couple weeks just before Mania don't usually hit like the feuds that start at the Rumble.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. Like Trick, I feel, especially if Carmelo's still the United States champion or in that boat,
Mhm.
the US title to me screams the
Yeah,
multi-man title match. And
yeah.
it gets on and it's Carmelo, Ilya, Trick, Gargano,
Phoenix,
Phoenix, someone else, six
Alistair.
person. Yeah, something like that. 6 person ladder right there. The men's IC would be either Dom Finn or Dom Finn JD. It feels like that.
Which it should be. I mean, we predicted it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so where does Sammy fit into that? Because Sammy going for the United States Championship after that promo doesn't hit anymore.
Yeah.
So now you're kind of in that, I don't want to say square, but you're in a little bit of that square where Sammy's story has to be he's going for the championship. He's going for the WWE championship. So at Mania, he's either getting the title shot or he's facing the person that screwed him out of getting that title shot, whether it be in the chamber and so cheats him out, or it's in the Rumble and the person he eliminated goes back into the ring and eliminates him. It has to be those one of two options. Right now, I mean, it screams the bigger odds would be the latter.
Well, it does. I don't know if you were finished there. You can continue, but
No, you're
I
good.
just I just kind of like it hit me like a wind there that Jericho's gonna get a Mania match too. So like, and I'm not even gonna hate on it.
I
Listen,
am.
well, I do get it. Okay, Jericho, I've said in the past, one of my all-time favorites, tarnished his career a bit, in my opinion, with the transition to AEW. The comeback to WWE was inevitable. It always was. Everybody knew it. Even if he stayed another 5 years in AEW, he would have came back eventually for that Hall of Fame and everything. Him coming back, does he deserve at least a singular send-off match? Yes, sure. He's an all-time legend. At WrestleMania would make sense. Seems like he'll have a bit more of a run than just one match, but him versus Sammy doesn't really like fit the bill. It could happen, I guess. I guess there's a little bit of a playoff Jericho and KO where you could maybe roll into some Jericho Sammy thing, but that doesn't do anything for me. Jericho should more so be in a slot to put over a Carmelo, uh, even an Alistair or, a Trick, a
Javon.
Phoenix, Javon. Yeah, somebody on the come up. But that's another name that you almost got to guarantee he's coming back and he gets a Mania match in Jericho. So another spot where maybe it is a Sami Zayn that gets snubbed from that.
Well, one person that he could potentially face that we definitely wanted to get into is Darula. Whew. Oba Femi, I mean, we've said it once, we've said it a million times. If this wasn't a Gunther Stan account, it would be an Oba Femi Stan account. We now know he's going up. We don't know confirmed whether it's to Raw or SmackDown. And I'm kind of sat here with that split where it screams Raw would be more likely right now with, the juice that SmackDown's gotten. I know Raw did get Javon, but it feels like Raw still needs more. But what makes me like, God, please no, do not put him on Raw. You can't have Oba and Gunther on the same show. Like, I know it's falling into like the fantasy booking, and it's a situation where I say it so much that I'm just like, I'm working myself into a shoot, like
Yeah.
but to me, it just feels so glaringly obvious. Like, you gotta keep these two guys away from each other. Like, you have to. This is such a money match. It is the same to me as Cena and Batista. Like, keep them as far away as possible for as long as possible because when they are the final two in the Rumble, it's a bigger whatever. Like, it just you have such a marquee match between the two of them. And we've had so many marquee matches that they've basically done as throwaways. Whether it's Cody or in the King of the Ring, whether it's Cody Gunther, do not make that mistake with this match. Gunther's got all this momentum. Oba, when he made his main roster debut and interrupted Cody, the crowd in Hershey or Baltimore, wherever they were at the time,
No fucking clue.
they knew him every word, everything hit. Please, please, now that he is going to be called up, it's got to be on SmackDown then. Since Gunther is on Raw, and I prefer Oba. Raw needs Oba more, but God, I need Oba and Gunther so far away from each other. The only way, and you already know what I'm about to say. Oba goes to Raw, Gunther wins the Rumble, and goes to SmackDown to face Cody. To me, that's what's got to happen.
Yeah, that's you took the words out of my mouth. I was waiting patiently to say that Gunther wins the Rumble. Oba goes to Raw. Gunther goes to SmackDown, takes on probably a Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. But here's the thing with Oba Femi. I do think he fits Raw a little bit more right now. I do think overall he fits SmackDown a little bit better, but I think right now, like the current state, everything, he could fit Raw a little bit. Is he the guy to also though be like chopping it up with division? Is he going to be face? Is he going to be heel? Let's see what route they go. Is he going to go mid card? Is he a guy they push straight to the top? It's tough to tell with Oba. If you were to put him on SmackDown, forget Gunther for a sec. Let's just say Oba debuts on SmackDown this Friday. He's a SmackDown superstar. It's great. SmackDown is it's the best roster they have had since you really think back like 2015, 2016 was good for SmackDown. That SmackDown Live era was stacked. I don't think the roster was as good as it is now, especially if you throw Oba on that show. That's the best SmackDown roster since what? Oh 07, oh 08, if not oh 04, oh 03, the Ray, Eddie, Cena, Brock era. You would have an all-time show on your hands as long as you can get your head out of your asses and book the show properly. You put them on Raw, you have more balanced shows. You have a great Raw and a great SmackDown is the hope. Javon Evans on the show, they've tangled up a time or two. You probably keep them away a little bit. But what I really want to see with Oba, which we haven't quite seen it to this extent with Javon or Trick or Jordan or Lash or whoever has come up recently. A lot of these superstars are showing up on Monday Night Raw and then SmackDown and then Raw and then SmackDown and then they sign a contract on air or off air. But there hasn't been a fight for somebody yet. I want Pearson Aldis to be pulling the strings, arguing, fighting. I want Oba Femi. I want Oba to, let's say he debuts at the Rumble, sure. I want him to have a match on Raw. You know what? Here's my deal, Oba, from Pierce or Aldis, either side. Don't even sign the contract yet. Let's put you out there. Have a match. Let's see how you feel. See what you like about Monday Night Raw. And then Aldis wants to do it as well. I want him having matches on each show for maybe a week or two, maybe a month. The ultimate fight for this guy, because each of them should know this is the next big thing. If I want my brand to succeed, I need Oba Femi, and that is true brand warfare, which we don't really have nowadays. I get it. But I want Oba to be the hottest commodity around before he does officially go to one brand, which ultimately should be Monday Night Raw, under the assumption Gunther wins the Rumble and goes to SmackDown.
Completely agree. I would love segments of it can be pre-recorded. Gunther, he's on my mind at all times. Oba sat at the head of the table, Aldis to his right, Pierce to his left, and they're kind of like arguing, and Oba's just watching this, and it's I'll do this for you. I'll offer you this. Like, you can have this match. We can, you know, private jet done. Whatever. Like, I want it to be like they are throwing the house at this guy. This should be like it is in the pros, where that top name free agent becomes a free agent, and it's a bidding war, and it's
Yeah.
you're making your pitches, whatever. Like, I want it to be this guy is prized. We know how valuable he is. He faced Cody Rhodes on John Cena's retirement show. Like, he is as high as it gets when it comes to how highly he should be regarded. Raw is needing him way more. 1,000,000%. The funny part is SmackDown has three clear, ready opponents way more than Raw does.
Yeah, Raw doesn't have like a super standout chop it up with Oba name quite yet. Honestly, with Sheamus out, the names that come to mind to me are names like Rusev. Like that would probably be the guy that puts Oba over a little bit. No shade on Rusev. I would like to see Rusev do some big things still too. But Oba should also just shoot straight to the top some way, somehow. Again, it's hard to predict what's on with the IC going on with the IC title with Dom hurt. But if Oba's not going to be a guy that just like skyrockets to a legitimate top main event feud, if not championship, he should be a guy that is winning a mid card title ASAP. Uh, there's also maybe a small argument that I know it was only one like kind of bullshit, not really a feud match, but the Oba Cody Rhodes match that you mentioned, maybe that's a good reason also to counteract him from Cody Rhodes, because the idea is now in your mind of them two going again. There's maybe even a little bit more value in their match this second time around than there is the first time around based on how they booked it, even though it is kind of like, in a way, they wasted that first time ever matchup. Down the line, it could add some more fuel to that fire. I can see it happening in a way, the kind of warfare over I want Oba, he's my show, he's not going to your show, whatever, this, that. Maybe it comes down to all this, or not all this, Pierce, because I think he's going to go to Raw, telling Oba, you know what, Oba, this is my final offer, but the Raw side of things, we get 15 guys on that Rumble every year, and I'm locking you in. You sign this contract, and you got your Rumble slot. And maybe that's how Oba decides his fate to Monday Night Raw. They might have Oba sign a contract on fucking Tubi TV Evolve, for all I know, at this point, with Javon Evans signing contracts off air. So maybe this is all wishful thinking, but maybe it's the way to do it, though, too. Maybe Triple H is listening in to the C2 pod this week and he'll catch on to some of the ideas. Oba should absolutely be the biggest commodity. Back to the very original thought when you sent this over to me. Oba on SmackDown, there's a couple guys already that you can go, Oba should face him, should face him, should face him, could win this title, this title, this title. On Raw, not that there aren't great matches over there on Raw, but even like Oba and Braun, they might not have had a billion interactions on NXT, but they're still they come from that same era, that same capacity of NXT that they could stay away for a while too. Oba and Rusev could be great. Oba, if he's gonna go the heel route, Oba Punk, Oba LA, Oba Usos. Like, yeah, there's some matches there, but they don't stand out as highly as any of the SmackDown potential.
It's funny because he is needed on Raw more.
Hmm.
But I sit here, I mentioned there's three guys that immediately come to mind on SmackDown. Then there's also three guys that immediately come to mind on Raw that he should be kept away from. Like when I know he is needed more on Monday Night Raw. And I even said he goes to Monday Night Raw. But when I compare the two, you got the 3 and 3 that I'm mentioning. On SmackDown, he easily can feud with Drew McIntyre. Drew costed him his biggest moment of his career. That
Yep.
sets it up right there. That feud very well could go to Mania, and that could be the Mania match. Easily could face Damian Priest, easily could face Aleister Black. Very easy goes into any of those three for a story. On Monday Night Raw, you could sit here and say, well, I don't want Oba near Braun. I don't want Oba near Gunther. And I don't want Oba near Javon because we still have this story between the two. And at some point, Javon's got to beat Oba. With them both called up, I'm kicking that can 5 more years down the road. And it's when Oba has been the world heavyweight champion for a year and a half. And Javon Evans finally beats him years upon years in the making. So I sit here and say Oba has to go to Monday Night Raw, but I'm fully making the argument as to why he shouldn't go to Monday Night Raw and he should go to Friday Night SmackDown. But that's where I circle all of this back to. It just feels like SmackDown has some more fresher stuff and these fresher options than Raw does because when I think of all these matchups on Raw, I'm immediately like, well, he's probably not going to go for the IC title because Dom's gotta face Finn. You know, or he's this story has to get to a head first. He's probably not gonna face anyone on the Vision. Punk's probably gonna be mixed in with them. LA's gonna be mixed in with them. Penta's now mixed in there. Roman's gonna come back. He's probably gonna be mixed up with that. When Rollins comes back, he's gonna be in that mix right there. You just keep going down the line, and it's like all of these people have these never-ending stories. Brock is probably gonna get mixed in one of them. They all have these never-ending stories to where you're kind of running out of people on SmackDown. You've got a couple more options. You got a few more fresh things that you're like, yeah, all right, it makes more sense for him to go there. But he's just so much more needed on Raw that like it actually, I feel like the SpongeBob meme of his eyes, like this, where I'm like, where should Oba go, Raw or SmackDown? I'm like,
Looking at
oh,
both of them. So it poses me to ask you a question. Forget the brand, forget the build to Mania, the feuds, the whatever needs to happen to get him there. If you have to book the Oba Femi WrestleMania 42 match, what is the match?
am I going off of what I would want to see or what would make the most sense?
Give me both. Give me the what
Both.
you want to see and then what you what you think we're gonna see.
Would I shouldn't say what I think we're gonna see, but what would make the most sense would be Drew. Would
Hmm.
be him.
Yes.
Drew already, as I mentioned, cost him in that match. Drew seemingly will be free for Mania. He's also going to be in a spot where who the hell knows what he does.
Oba eliminates Drew in the Rumble. Boom.
Very well. Like it just, I mean, Oba's got to he's got to get his lick back at Drew,
Yeah.
and Drew is spiteful. What would I want to see? It's tough because I like kind of filter through. I kind of would want to see just because I don't want to say out of left field, but it just be fresh and kind of different. I don't want Oba to be a baby face. I kind of would love like an Oba Penta match at Mania where it's marquee for both. It is completely fresh. Like it is a matchup we've never gotten. Both guys are going to be in a relevant match. And love you, Penta, but You're looking at the lights,
Me,
pal.
me, me, me,
I need
me.
to, I need a marquee name to look at the lights for Oba, and I'm sorry that I picked you, but also factoring in all of the names and just having it still make sense. If there's anyone that I could pluck out of their potential future and it be okay, it would be Penta. Like LA, no, you can't just pluck him out. He's too knee deep with the Vision. The Vision is too knee deep with 97 people. Roman is too knee deep with people. If Seth is back, he's too knee deep. Punk too knee deep. Like you just keep going down the line. Dom, Finn, like they're tied too much. Gunther, Styles, they're just tied too much to these people. Who could you pluck where I would like it, I want it, and it still makes sense? I would love Oba Penta.
Yeah, Oba Penta is probably the guy outside of Drew that, well, I don't even want to say outside of Drew because Drew is the guy that makes the most sense, especially off the idea that what else does Drew do, really, other than go into a feud with the guy that he did kind of cost his biggest moment to. Makes the most sense. Penta's the guy that you can probably pull out of like left field. It would be a great match. There's maybe a story you can tell there. Even like LA Knight, who, let's say you get him out of the whole Vision thing. LA Knight versus Oba just doesn't quite do it for me like Penta versus Oba could. But Oba versus Drew is probably the route they go. If you're not going to go that route, there is the underlying thought that SummerSlam Minnesota, Brock Lesnar retires. And the idea I feel like is already implemented that Gunther might retire Brock Lesnar. But if it's not going to be Gunther, it could be Oba. Oba would be the guy you really put over for 20 years. The guy's 20, whatever years old he is. You have him be the guy to retire Brock, he would go over big for a long time. But he might not be the guy to retire Brock, but he is one of the last guys around that I need to see face Brock before Brock does retire. So if you're going to go the Gunther route at SummerSlam, maybe the only time left to pull the trigger for Oba Brock is at WrestleMania 42. And maybe that's how you set up some sort of, or the Rumble, I should say, is how you set up some sort of Oba Brock feud. But you also maybe, like, it is still Brock Lesnar. Don't get me wrong. He could lose a billion matches and he still is deserving in a way. But you almost maybe need Brock to win his Mania match to like build him up for the retirement via whoever it ends up being. But if you're not going to pull the trigger at Mania, maybe do it at SummerSlam. Brock or Drew, I would say, are my two pulls for it's got to be one of them. I would be upset if Oba's in the multi-man whatever this year. Very upset.
As Cena said, you have Cena get his ass kicked by Brock for that next guy who beats
Yeah.
Brock, and that's where someone like Oba fits in. But you will get Oba versus Chris Jericho, and you will like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I mean, never say never. I listen, let's do that then real quick. We only got so much left in this, I guess, but what's the Chris Jericho Mania match?
He's the host.
It's not impossible. That's actually not like honestly that outrageous. I do think he's going to get slotted for a match.
Yeah,
He
of course.
might get like a tag team match though. I don't know. They could go Jericho and somebody versus
I don't
some
need another
team.
Jericho,
Oh no,
Jeremiz,
me neither. No, no, no,
Y2AJ.
no,
Like
no,
I
no.
just,
I would prefer a singles match for him if he's going to have a match. Um, I said it to you in text like a couple weeks ago, but if he's not going to be, the multi-man title match, Carmelo is the guy to get the rub from Jericho, I think. If I had to choose one person, if Jericho gets one match, which he's not gonna, it's gonna be a small run, part-time deal. But Carmelo is the guy that should get that rub from Jericho. Solo, one-on-one, for the title, fuck it. Carmelo beats Jericho at Mania. I'd have no complaints realistically, outside of maybe four or five other guys not getting a chance for that championship at Mania, because that could be where the title changes hands as well. I'd be okay with it.
yeah, I'm totally fine with it. I mean, if you told me we're sat here and it's Chris Jericho teaming with Rey Mysterio against Dom and Finn, like I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I
I know
wouldn't be happy
I would
either.
not
Yeah.
be happy, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't be shocked. Like it's It really is kind of endless possibilities. The interesting thing is Jericho was gone for so long that there are a lot of fresh matchups for him, but a lot of them are just things like I don't want to say I have no interest in. I just like I don't need Jericho versus Oba.
No,
You know, I
not
don't
at all.
need Jericho versus Gunther. I don't need
No.
Jericho versus Penta, whatever. You know, like I don't need any of these matches. We're gonna get some of them. Like that's just
Yeah.
gonna happen. So I agree with Carmelo. You could maybe change it and it's a Javon. My only worry when it comes to like a Javon, I very well see Jericho fucking winning that match. And it's one of those in the long run, this guy's going to be okay, which we normally are always in that boat. Carmelo is like the prime example of that.
Hmm.
We're like when they lose guys, it's okay. Like he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. I can't have that at Mania with Jericho if he beats a
Yeah.
Javon, if he beats a Carmelo, and they're like, trust us, they in the long run he's going to be better from it. No, no,
Yeah.
it
I mean,
doesn't.
I definitely don't want it, not by any means, but Javon is so young, 21 years old or whatever. Like, I would fucking hate it. It would probably be my least favorite moment of the weekend, to be honest. But he'd survive it. Carmelo would take a bigger hit taking a loss to Jericho in that moment for sure. A lot of guys could. There's a lot of guys, as you said, I don't need to see Jericho face realistically. I mean, even if it is a little run for Jericho, he's got what, 10 left? Mania
10 years?
40? No, 10 matches. No, 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 no. No, not a chance. Not a chance. 10 matches, it's crazy I don't want to say he retires in Saudi at Mania 43, but like maybe he fucking does. Who knows? Maybe that's a big selling point of that. But there's a lot going into this Mania, man. There's a lot going into the Chamber. There's a lot going into the Rumble, into Friday Night SmackDown, into Monday Night Raw. There's a lot going into C2 Wrestling.
And what should also be going into is into your subscription box. When you click subscribe, you prove once and for all you are not a coward. The Royal Rumble, I will be defending my C2 Wrestling Predictions Championship. So stay tuned as we break down all these shows, as we go on rants, as we argue with people on TikTok. So follow our TikTok, follow us on X, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it. I almost never post on Instagram, but if you want to follow there, go ahead, follow there. Don't be a coward.
Hit us with the subscribe. Tell us what you thought about the podcast. Tell us who you think is your early prediction for the Royal Rumble.